All right, so let's talk for a few minutes. We'll hope we'll trust the Lord to bring some few thoughts together here. We call this God's recycling project. We're going to start with Isaiah 61 verse 3, which says, "So they will be called oaks of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that He may be glorified." Well, I was engaged in some discussion about planting today, planting greens and microgreens and different things to contribute to uh, our endeavor to have healthy food for people in need, and so that was kind of an exciting um, project, and it got me thinking about planting and seeds and all those things. When we plant with purpose and with hope, I would say. Um, and as this is in the natural, so it is in the spiritual. We do so that we might see reproduction, we might see the bearing of fruit. Um, so, planting in the sense of being a disciple of Jesus is, of course, this way. I love how Eugene Peterson reads this or spells out this familiar passage about the seed going in the ground. He says, he quotes Jesus like this. He says, "Listen carefully. Unless a grain of wheat is buried in the ground, dead to the world, it will never, it is never any more than a grain of wheat. But if it is buried, it sprouts and reproduces many times over. In the same way, anyone who holds on to life just as it is destroys that life. But if you let it go, reckless in your love, you'll have it forever, real, and eternal." All right, great passage. So, um, in spite of the fact that God puts love before us, He puts inheritance before us, as He did first and foremost with Jesus, with His Son, and whose inheritance is, of course, us. Now, we also get to have an inheritance, and that is not just my own private salvation. That inheritance is being a part of God's family. But it's no easy thing. We need to forfeit this life, both legitimate hopes and the frivolous and ego alike. And just as we're all appointed, like it or not, to depart this world, to receive, in order to receive that inheritance, Christ calls each of us to follow Him in this very way. The practice of laying down our lives in eternity to die, essentially, um, that He might rebirth something in us and through us, um, in us, to us, in us, through us, and to others, results in the manifestation of the gospel to humanity. The rule and reign, the love, the grace of Jesus is to spill forward. Righteousness, peace, and joy dominate where fear and competition otherwise dwell. And immeasurable good works follow where death and new birth do take place. With our eyes on Jesus, we can rehearse the ultimate departure and arrival through discipleship, through yielding to Him, obeying Him, and through participation as we do in the example of Jesus through the practice of communion, of Eucharist. Um, and Eucharist isn't just a once a month, depending on your tradition, or once a day or once a week thing. It's a life, isn't it? It's a life of yielding, dying, and allowing Him to re. Christ becomes through His Spirit. It's Christ comes in us and through us, and we experience even that very resurrection life um, that empowered Jesus. So anyway, that's an exciting topic, resurrection, right? Um, so would we give ourselves as living sacrifices as such to the Lord to die in His service, to His glory, and to the benefit of all? Even with strong faith, we can certainly squirm and grimace at the thought of death and dying in the very literal sense, and in the spiritual sense, we certainly scream and kick and fight and but if He has our hearts, we're drawn, aren't we? Um, but God's children shine forth hope amidst the darkest times. Now we're experiencing some dark times through this season of Yom Kippur. Um, we know there's been some real darkness happening in the Middle East, and as God's people, we pray in a special way for the Middle East. And it's a place of sacred remembrance, and I think more too. But I just want to read this passage from Psalm 84, verses 5 to 8, which reads in the New Living Translation, "What joy for those whose strength comes from the Lord, who have set their minds on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. When they walk through the valley of weeping, it will become a place of refreshing springs. The autumn rains will clothe it with blessings." Oh, that that land would become um, like a place of refreshing springs. It's needed. And I believe that only the Lord can bring that to pass. The faithfulness of God's people turns a valley of weeping, the place of desolation, the place like Job experienced where he said, "The thing I feared most has come upon me." Those places can be turned by God's resurrection power and perspective into springs of life for us and for fellow sojourners. We would rather reach our destination, but these highways also must be traversed. Others will be impacted by how we walk, especially through tough times, times of fear and darkness and illness and loss, disappointment, all of those things. But as we walk and as we continue in His rhythm of death and resurrection, um, it is an energy that shines forth a light of hope, reflected through our frail and relatable humanity. What a blessing it is to be a part of that. So, God bless you. I hope this word encourages you, and I look forward to getting back to doing more of this and doing some other exciting things too.